Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to our Tuesday, March 24th Municipal Planning / Regular Council meeting. I will confirm that all members of council are here and present, as well as our municipal clerk. It is 9:30, and we'll start the meeting now. We'll start off with territorial land acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge the township of Alma-Culloden is located on the Mississauga-Neshinenbec territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga-Neshinenbec. The township of Alma-Culloden respectively acknowledges that the Mississauga nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Approval of the agenda, and I would like to add one item, and that's a verbal update on, or a verbal communication regarding the Alto high-speed train, which has become fairly busy throughout Eastern Ontario, but I'll go into the details of that when the time comes. So I'll ask that that be added to, where would that be added to? The communications, perfect. No. So I need a motion to amend the procedure so that allows us to talk about that. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? That's carried. I'll read the rest of the resolution then, that the agenda for the Municipal Planning Regular Council meeting held on March 24th, 2006, with an addendum be approved. Mover and seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? That's carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, that'll be noted. We have no approval minutes to approve. Delegation, Mr. Rising delegation, so we're going to move on to the adjournment of the land division. Move to adjourn. We got to get here first. Move to adjourn to a land division committee of adjustments. It is recommended the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Alma-Culloden enact as follows: that the Council of the Township of Alma-Culloden, being a land division committee of adjustment, move to a land division committee / committee of the adjustments meeting at 9:31 a.m. Moving and seconded. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to the Committee of Adjustment Land Division Committee meeting. I'll call this meeting to order at 9:35 or 9:33. And I will confirm that members of the committee are here, as well as the presence of the Secretary Treasurer of the committee. Next is the territorial land acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge that the Township of Alma-Culloden is located on the Mississauga-Neshinenbec territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga-Neshinenbec. The Township of Alma-Culloden respectively acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. The agenda of the Committee of Adjustment / Land Division Committee meeting held on March 24th be approved. Could I get a move in a second? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature. Seeing none, will be noted. Motion to adopt the meeting minutes and the meeting minutes of February 24th, 2026. It is recommended the Committee of the Whole / Land Division Committee of the Corporation of the Township of Alma-Culloden act as follows: that the minutes for the Committee of Adjustment Land Division Committee meeting held on February 24th be approved. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Councilor Booth. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to consents. And our first consent is an amendment to condition of consent for Greg and Catherine Thompson, AH 092025, PLN 202609, amended to conditions of consent for Greg and Karen Thompson, AH 092025, 24 of March 2026. Madam Secretary, can you take us through this, please?
Good morning to the chair. The report proposes amendments to the condition of consent to allow for an easement to be added to a part for a lot addition. The lot will be added to a lot on Rice Lake to allow for parking and construction of a garage. It was thought that the land subject to a private right-of-way was owned by that property owner, whereas it was owned by the owner where the lot is being severed from. So this additional part and easement will allow the application to proceed to completion. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Any questions from members? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution that the conditions of consent approval for application AH 092025 by Greg and Karen Thompson, and the agent is Ken Darlinson, which conditionally approved a consent to sever a parcel of land for the addition of a vacant lot in part of Lot 20, Concession 7, geographically Township of Allen, Calderman, approved by the Committee of Adjustment on July 22nd, 2025, be amended by adding the following condition. This is condition number 10, that a part of the reference plan be provided for the shared access between 1026 Merrill Road 31 and 1026 Merrill Road number 29, and an easement be registered over that part in favor of 1026 Merrill Road number 31. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stolber, seconder Councilor Booth. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. And the next motion is to adjourn from this meeting, that the Committee of Adjustment Land Division Committee meeting held on March 24th, 2026 be adjourned at 9:37 a.m. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor O'Neill, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to number 9. Motion to reconvene to a municipal regular council meeting. It is recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Allen Calderman act as follows. That the Council of the Township of Allen Calderman, being a land division committee / committee of adjustment, reconvene to the municipal planning regular council meeting at 9:38 a.m. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor O'Neill. Discussion. All in favor? That motion's carried. Moving on to 11-1. This is for an amendment to site plan control bylaw implementation of Bill 2397 and 185. PLN 202608, amendment to a site plan control bylaw, implementation of bills 2397 and 185. on March the 24th, 2026, the PDF. Tracy, got a good big report here, please go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. The report proposes an amendment to the site plan control bylaw to address legislative changes and to also introduce exemptions that are reflective of how the bylaw has been implemented and currently and in the past. It was brought to my attention that there is a typo in section, 7 of the attached bylaw. Municipal should be replaced with municipality. Sorry, that was, not section 7, it's section 5, subsection I. Please make note of that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Members of council, any questions or comments? Councilor O'Neill.
Where do you see this having the most impact on what we're currently doing?
I think it provides clarity as to, when we need a site plan application, versus when we don't. So that's where the exemptions come into place. And it also, allows for the implementation of the policies, the regulations by the province, rather than copying into the bylaw definitions and sections that are in the Planning Act. I've proposed to make references to those sections, so if there are several changes in the future, we're not always into needing to update and amend our bylaw to match. Thank you.
Follow
No, I just want,
Okay.
my mic was off, so I'll repeat what I did ask, which was how that was going to most impact day-to-day operations
thank
here.
you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. Thank you, Tracy, for all the hard work you've done in getting this document where it is. Is this gonna expedite the process, make it more seamless?
Through the chair, I think there were previous changes where it used to have, site plan used to have to come to council for approval first. The province introduced legislation, I think around 2022. The previous planner had already updated the bylaw to reflect that. So now we review it as a committee. We try to keep that as informal as possible. So the committee members are the clerk, the planner, the CBO, the manager of public works, and the fire chief. So when we get applications in, I'll circulate them. Usually I collect the responses through email or through conversations. And then once I know everybody is satisfied with the proposal, we're able to kind of get to the approval stage relatively quickly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lobo.
Thank you. Councilor Ainsworth.
Yeah, to you, Mayor. Same thing, Trace. Thanks. This was, good to see this come to council. And I do have a couple of notes that I would like to, and I did pass these on just to Tracy ahead of time to, get her reply. Thank you very much. And, but for council to, hear my suggestions and maybe ideas that we can maybe add to this report. So there's an exemption in there of 300 square meters for a house. So I would ask that we raise that to 500 square meters. And I'm gonna go through a little bit of a list here. And so, I mean, the difference is 3,200 to 5,000 square feet. So I would suggest that we add a minor exemptions. And those would be simply some things like semi-detached homes, additions to the homes, farm-related structures. I know it's in the bylaw already, but it could be maybe more defined. And of course, everything would have to be subject to special hazard area. My next one would be add timelines. I don't see timelines in there for like minor applications or full strength, so maybe 30 days for a minor application, 60 days for a full site plan. The other one is, limit committee involvement under the administration. So again, maybe the CAO or the CBO approve along with the minor application instead of all the other, of course, they could reach out to the other ones, but maybe in like to save time. The next one for creating fast track streams. So a minor site plan for classes like if there's no agreement, staff level improvements only, and minimal drawing applications. My last one would be like protecting the residents from, I mean, all this is trying to protect and help the residents from the cost of everything. But these ones here would be, you know, define the triggers. So for example, like there's clauses for traffic increase, or it's the significant grading, environmental impact. So all it says is we don't define what some of them are. It's pretty wide open, what you can use them for and how long it would take. So it could be literally anything. So maybe some of those minor issues. So they would be my 5 or 6 items that I would like to add to this policy if we could. And I think it would help. I think it would help just maybe make it easier on staff, and it would make it also easier on the residents and less expensive in some circumstances. And I think that's what what these 3 bills came out for, is moving things faster, getting it done faster, more consistent on site plans and developments and engineering and stuff also, so.
Thank you, Mike. Just a quick comment. I haven't had a chance to look at what you're suggesting, and probably none of the members of council have neither. I know you did speak, or pardon me, that you did indicate that you had passed your questions on to Tracy. I don't know if she's had a chance to look at them or not. Tracy, do you have any comments?
Through the chair, so I can provide a little bit of more detail. So in terms of semi-detached and additions, the Planning Act changes that were introduced does not allow for site plan approval on a lot that has less than 10 units. So a semi-detached would be typically on 2 lots each, or usually they're constructed on 1 lot, and then there's a part lot control to divide that lot. So there would only be a maximum of 2 units. So we wouldn't be allowed to apply site plan to that type of development unless it was in proximity to a prescribed area, which is within proximity to wetlands, water courses, lakes, or rail lines. Rail lines are very, they create a lot of hazard impact in terms of noise and vibration. So there's technical studies in those instances that we would likely need to see to make sure that there's no impacts on the ultimate resident living in those units. In terms of the addition,
So just so I understand, because I want to make sure that I understand. Basically, you're saying as long as it's under 10 units, there is no site plan requirement.
unless it's in a prescribed area.
Unless it's in that special area.
That's correct. And same would be true for additions if it's a residential. And then the exemption clauses, as Mike was suggesting, increasing to 500 meters square, that would also include additions if it was under the threshold in section 4I and then subsection I. So depending on the size, but if the addition was to propose changes to grading or stormwater or environmental compliance approval requirements, or a technical study or increasing traffic, we would still want to look at site plan to ensure there's no impacts on infrastructure or adjacent property owners. That was the proposal and the intention behind that. In terms of the limited committee of involvement and the idea of having the CBO or the CAO approve, site plan is a Planning Act application, and there's a lot of policies and regulations that need to be considered from a planning perspective. I think it's imperative in order to avoid issues if something is challenged, that the planner is involved in the approval process. The Planning Act does regulate timing of 60 days for approvals. In my experience, we haven't had a lot of site plan applications that have started fresh here since I've been here, but I've got 25 years plus experience. Simple applications can be achieved in a short order. The more complex are not always as easy to approve in that time frame. With a site plan application of a larger scale, you'll get very technical packages that come in. They get peer reviewed. They go back to the applicant. If their submission wasn't perfect, that adds to the time frame. 60 days might be ideal for a small application, but for the larger complex applications, it's very challenging to meet that time frame. But I think we can strive to achieve that as best possible. In terms of interpretation of the exemptions, time is very limited here. We could look at maybe creating like a handbook to provide some more explanation as to how that would be implemented. So there's consistency. If for some reason I move on and somebody else comes in, that we have a consistent approach. I've prepared handbooks in my previous experience. When we have a student, we could probably put something together and maybe bring it back. But I think, we have professionals that we rely on, and we would communicate with when we are dealing with pre-consultations or somebody comes to us to say what they want to do. Then we would be able to better, understand if it's going to need plans, drawings, reports, and what scale the application needs to be, so we can process it accordingly. Thank you. I hope I captured everything on your list.
If I can, the handbook is, so that's passed on to staff members, or is that open to the public, or what is that?
Through the chair, many municipalities will have like a guide or a handbook. I've drafted them before they're put online so that applicants can see them. Or like if we're talking to somebody, we can provide that information to them. It's, bylaws are very technical, and guidance can help explain them. I think if you put everything in the bylaw, then the bylaws get pretty, long and drawn out and harder to understand. It's probably easier to have a companion document maybe to explain the process. The bylaw, the way it had been written, if you read it to the T, it would probably apply to everything that is built in the municipality. So by having something more formal, that gives us a gauge to work with.
And at the same time, it allows a little bit of flexibility.
That's correct, but at the same time, recognizing that developments that have potential for impact, increased liability. So we need to make sure that we're thinking of the township's liability and processing those applications and making sure we get the background needed to look at impact.
Thank you. Mike, any comments?
Yeah, to you, Mayor. It's, so some of my suggestions that it would be nice maybe if we could get them out to council, let them review the ideas, maybe look them up on their own, and maybe to see if they can fit in. I think most of the suggestions that Tracy sent back to me in the email, I think we can both agree that they have merit, whether we can put them in or whether they're easy enough to sort out. Maybe if we had that opportunity to do that.
I'm sure when you have your booklet made up, you'll be sharing that with.
I mean, this, through you, Mayor, Tracy's done a great job, don't get me wrong.
I know.
I just, for me, I'm looking at how can we make it easier for the resident, less expensive? And how can we make it easier on staff, with the workload they have already?
I think that's good. I think that's absolutely right. I expect that's what Tracy's trying to do for herself and for all, because if she takes less work out of it for the public in a general application, it's less work for her as well, so. I think that's good. Any other comments? Your Catherine?
I just wanna, give a nod to the idea of the PM document. I've been at various, presentations from other municipalities, and they've had success by having more information on their website, so that when people come, they have a better understanding, and that seems to be extremely helpful in making the process go quickly.
Thank you. I have one question, but I think you've already answered it. I was gonna ask you, any applications that are out there now, will they be affected by this change?
Through the chair, like, we haven't gotten a submission. I've heard there are people who are considering submitting applications. I think, no, we'll have to sit down with them to see what they're proposing, to see if they fit the exemption criteria or not. But potentially, this will provide some clarity for sure. It'll also provide transparency. Like, I have had an inquiry from a resident about a home industry and how come it didn't require a site plan. And this will very clearly lay out that that's exempt from site plan. Like, the zoning bylaw regulations are very restrictive, so those types of developments are very small, so they'd have very limited impact. So, this allows for people to really understand how we're implementing this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further questions or comments? Tracy, thank you for a great report. It looks like you're making things a little bit simpler, and we appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
Well, we need a resolution. Well, Mike, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion. Can I do that now, or have you read the resolution?
Well, we should have the motion first and prepare. Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna say.
Pardon me?
What are you saying? What is your motion?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this until I can get this information out to the rest of the council, let them digest it and have their own thoughts about it. Tracy's comments are also there. They can do their own homework on it just to see if, because I think this bylaw is very important, and I thank Tracy for bringing it to us. But I think it's the way we're gonna govern site planning and development here for the next little while, so it's probably important that we probably cross all our T's and dot our I's a little bit as far as council. And then more information is good.
Thank you, Mike. Anything
Okay.
else?
No,
Need a seconder for, to defer motion?
Just want to ask a question,
Go ahead. Need a seconder?
get it on the floor.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to get it on the floor then. I'll
Second.
second it for that reason.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lowell. To Tracy. What are the ramifications of this delay to delay this?
Through the chair, the bylaw is in conformity with legislation, so having a bylaw that, is confusing, I think, is, one of the issues. The current bylaw doesn't have the exemption criteria, so there's no ability to formally implement it the way it has been. So I think delaying it just, leaves us with a bylaw that isn't overly clear at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Mike.
to you, Mayor. So the existing bylaw still stands. I would assume that we can still do business as usual. Until, council has an opportunity to view, my input on it. And of course, Tracy's answers to my input, but I think would be good for them to see.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. Is it, specific questions, like we're not looking at rewriting the whole kit and caboodle, but is it specific, questions that are needing clarification? And I'm just wondering if we, pass this, and can it be, like all bylaws are living documents, can it be brought back? Should there be a need to, change it or clarify it?
Through the chair, that's correct, bylaws can always be amended, so if we're implementing it and we find a quirk that just isn't working right, or you're getting complaints, if you can forward those complaints on to us for consideration, then we will know, you know, if the ideas in this bylaw are causing interpretation issues. I did review a number of site plan control bylaws. I've written them in my past, experience, so, it's fairly consistent to what others have. I think the one question about raising the threshold from 300 meters to 500 meters is something council could likely debate today and address. I think many of the questions that had been posed had already been answered. I think maybe it's just the understanding of how it's implemented. Like, for example, the agricultural buildings, that is a farm building. So we are proposing exemptions unless it's on the Oak Ridges Moraine, where there is policies that require us to look at environmental constraints. So I think Councillor Ainsworth and I are really on the same page. It might be just getting more clarification through a handbook that would really help with the understanding of it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of, postponing this till, not postpone, but, deferring this to a future meeting? All in favor?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I got messages, people. put
So-
up their hand.
I put my hand up too soon, sorry,
All in favor?
of deferring.
Defer, yes. That motion is defeated. We'll go back to the original motion. That the council received report PLN 2026-10 Heritage Framework Transformation. That bylaw 2026-16 site plan control bylaw be approved to implementation of bills 2397 and 185 to include classes of development that are exempt from approval and to repeal bylaw 83-2022. Mover and the seconder. Deputy Mayor Stover, seconder by Councilor O'Neill. I have one question. You mentioned the 300 to 500 feet meters and whatever. Can you be a little bit specific to telling us what you're talking about there?
Yes, through the chair, section 4 for exemptions, in the subsection I, it says new development or expansions of a commercial, industrial, institutional, resort, or on-farm diversified building or structure that is no more than 300 meters square. So the proposal was to change that to 500 meters, and I'll just convert that. I don't know about everybody here, but I like to think in feet still. So,
I do too.
300 meters square is 3,229 square feet, whereas 500 meters square is 5,382 square feet. So, but then there is the subsections that speak to, and does not alter grading or drainage, require stormwater management controls, require environmental compliance approval, require technical studies to address hazardous lands and or natural heritage features and areas, or substantially increase traffic to the sites and or requires road infrastructure works.
Well, are you saying if council wishes, we could change that from 300 to 500 for
That's,
that specific area and leave the rest alone?
that's correct.
Any comments or thoughts on that? Go ahead, Mike.
Well, to you, Mayor, it's kind of what I suggested in part of my additions to it, is that we change them from 300 to 500 square meters. Well, I'm okay with that.
Thank you, Mayor Catherine.
Would that not have changes to the impacts to the building code, just given the size of roofs and stuff? Would it impact on that level?
Through the chair, regardless of site plan, they'd still have to meet building code and go through building permits. So this is more of a technical approval process where we look at, grading plans and stormwater management. So like a lot of the bylaws that I had looked at had 100 meters square, but they were very urban in context. So the lots are smaller and they're closer together, likely having more of those technical impacts. We've seen developments here on, 100-acre parcel. Does a 5,000 meter square building have the same impact? I think when we get the proposal in and look at it, and then we would identify through conversations with staff at the county and the conservation authorities, maybe an engineer, if we needed to reach out to an engineer to see if those are types of studies and drawings we're going to need. And that would be how we look at answering the criteria and direct the applicant as to whether we're going to need site plan approval. For example, if somebody comes in with a storage building at 300 meters square on, a concession road, and that storage building is going to be storing product that involves a large amount of truck traffic, we're probably going to want to see a site plan to address the impact on the road. That helps.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo, through you to Tracy. So I'm just looking at, wondering about the ramifications of putting it up to 500 square meters. Is there still going to be controls in place if it should be only 300 square meters?
Through the chair, I think having that list of subsections allows for us to make a professional judgment as to whether there's going to be impact or not. That needs to be looked at through the technical review. So whether it's 300 or 500, we have the criteria listed there that enables us to say, okay, well, even though it's only 300 meters square, this is going to have an impact because of how you're using the building, and the amount of truck traffic that's going to be coming to the site. So that would enable us to say, yes, you do need site plan for that reason.
And at the same, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but at the same time, if it was 400 square meters or whatever it was, and it passed everything else, if we left it the way it is, just because it was 400, you'd have to do approval, basically.
That's correct, yeah.
So it's gonna say that anything between 3 and 500. But doesn't prevent you from doing any other things that were suggested. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Just for clarification, through you, Mayor Lobo, to Tracy. It doesn't restrict it if it is at 300. but the person wanted 500 square meter. So that's not being restricted at all, there won't be any. We still would be able to build bigger. If it was at 300 and you wanted 500, this is just more or less for the screening process, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Any other further questions? Have a mover and seconder, all in favor?
Sorry, what are we voting on if we could have that read back?
That bylaw 2026-16 site, oh, maybe we gotta do that. Site plan control bylaw be approved for implementation of bills 2397 and 185 to include classes of development that are exempt from approval and to repeal bylaw 83-2022. And if I understand correctly, we would like to amend wherever that was to take that from 300 meters to 500 meters. Is that what we're saying? Swear.
Well, not yet, because no one's amended.
Okay, we need a motion to amend there. Thank you. Can I get a motion to amend? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion's carried. Meters to 500 meters. Yes. For buildings. And it doesn't matter where they are, does it? Just for size of the buildings. So is there a place that you'd like to put that in, Tracy? Or whereabouts exactly?
Through the chair, you would just need to replace 300 with 500 in section 4I, subsection I.
Yeah, you want to. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So through Mr. Mayor, I believe I have it with the amendment that was just recently approved. That was to increase from 300 square meters to 500 square meters. So the bylaw that was moved and seconded and has now been amended reads, or sorry, the motion reads that bylaw 2026-16 site plan control bylaw be approved as amended to increase the requirements from 300 square meters to 500 square meters for the implementation of bills 2397 and 185 to include classes of development that are exempt from approval and to repeal bylaw 83-2022. Madam Mayor, does that capture the appropriate agreements?
Through the chair for clarity, I would add that within section 4 exemptions, subsection I.
So the motion will be bylaw be approved as amended to increase the requirements from 300 square meters to 500 square meters within section 4, subsection I for the implementation of bills 2397 and 185 fiscal.
Perfect. Everybody understand? That was originally moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any further questions? Go ahead. Councillor O'Neill.
I mean, we've already passed the amendment, but as I'm sitting here thinking, I think this will play out differently in a hamlet where places are closer together than on a rural concession. And I'm just noting that I think this might be concerning for that reason, but we've already passed it. I'm just making my view known.
Through the chair, I think having the criteria there allows us to ask for site plan regardless of the size of the building, if it is going to have an impact on grading, stormwater, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Next we have 11.2, which is the Heritage Framework Transformation. Proposals related to the Ontario Archaeological Program, including target changes to the standards and guidelines for consultation or consult archaeologists, PLN 2026 and Heritage Framework Transformation. Proposals related to Ontario's archaeological program, including target changes to the standard PDF. Madam Chair, Madam Treasurer.
Planner?
Planner, yeah, I got them all.
I just wear one hat, thank you, through the chair, or through the mayor. On March the 6th, the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism posted a proposal for targeted changes to the 2011 standards and guidelines for consultant archaeologists that are intended to formalize limited archaeological assessments, partial clearances, and criteria for evaluating licensed consulting archaeologists. I've provided comments in the report. If anyone has any questions, I'm available to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Any questions from members? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. To Tracy, this is gonna make your job a lot easier going through these guidelines. I was just wondering about what your thoughts are on this. As I read through it, it kind of looked to me to be a worded a little better. But I just would like your input on that, and thank you for this.
You're welcome. And in terms of your question, you mean the guidelines?
Yeah, and as opposed for what is coming through on your desk for planning and, when it speaks about the archaeological digs, is this gonna be easy, make your job easier with these guidelines, or I'm just wondering about your input?
Through the chair, the guidelines are used by archaeologists, so it would be how they are preparing their report. And from what my understanding is, and I'm not a professional archaeologist, but we do have to review their reports. Some of what is proposed is actually in practice in some instances where there are archaeologists who have been scoping their work to the site of development, like in Alma Calderman, we have a lot of larger parcels. When somebody wants to do a consent, it doesn't make sense to have them do an archaeological assessment on the whole 100 acres if they're just severing an acre. So I've had a lot of conversations with MCM staff trying to be creative in scoping things, keeping in mind that it does cost money for people to do the assessments, but we also have to implement the provincial policies at the same time. And how can we best do that? We've utilized development agreements to help, minimize the amount of work that potentially might be done. for applicants. Sometimes they want to conduct the assessment prior to selling a lot. Sometimes they like to sell a lot and leave the future homeowner with the ability to complete the requirement. It's up to them, and we're trying to be as flexible as possible while still implementing the policies. Some of the comments that I did provide are based on experiences I've had implementing the requirement and some of the frustrations that I've heard from applicants on the amount of time that it takes to get confirmation from MCM that their reports have been reviewed. Because I'm not an archaeologist, I rely on that confirmation that the report met their guidelines and has been done properly. The letter from MCM is what I need to be confident in signing off on a permit, that the work was done correctly. There's a lot of costs involved in some of these assessments, especially if artifacts have been found. I can't disclose locations, but there is a site where a cottage owner has uncovered artifacts, and the lot is so small that they wouldn't be able to just leave the artifacts with a buffer around it, because I think it's a 20-meter minimum protective buffer from my understanding. So they're likely into needing to excavate the artifacts out of the site, which I think adds cost. So I think it is important for some funding to be available, because it gets to a point where they can't afford to complete the work, and then they're not able to do upgrades, like finish an addition or install a new septic system, and that can be problematic. So I think hearing from, people who are actually having to implement the policies, is important for the province to hear. So we do have, I think it was the beginning of April 4th or 6th, I can't recall the exact date, to submit comments. So if there's anything that council wishes to add, we're willing to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, thank you, Mayor Lobo. Just to follow up, one of the things that you mentioned, items you mentioned that I read as well, is being more specific to areas. And that certainly is going to help, especially if you're wanting to put a deck in a certain area, not having to dig up the whole place and the cost of that. So thank you for your input.
You're welcome.
I think, Councilor Ranger would be a question.
Yeah, Mayor, through you. I guess I'm not sure where we're gonna go with this today. There's multiple levels that are going on throughout Canada, plus the province, about archaeological assessments and land claims and stuff with the First Nations. I don't know if anybody's following out west what's going on in the Kamloops area and Vancouver and BC, and that's gonna have a rippling effect. So I love the idea, Tracy, you put in there the government funding for the cost, because this is a very big cost on our residents to do this work. And I don't know how many sites we've found, anything compared to how many that we've actually had to do the assessments at. We seem to ignore some of the not as mentally, but just in the province as a rule. Tracy's probably one that follows the rules the most from what I see in different municipalities. So thanks for that, Tracy. But numbers 9 and number 8 on there, there's the Lower Trent Conservation needs to be a part of this here, because their mapping of it is dated. Their definition of water courses is out of date, and all those little things that happen triggers an assessment. And this is just extra money after extra money on the revenue. So we've had the Grafton Creek Golf Course was a year waiting for NCM to get a reply back to them. A year. So they're backlogged because of it. And it's just a snowball effect everywhere. And again, my concern mostly is the cost of our residents for doing it. And the, whether it's a 1 or up to a level 4 archaeological assessment. So, maybe some define where we want to go with this versus what the province might come down with later on after. And is there a link, Tracy, to that, where we can put our comments in for the MCN?
Go ahead, Tracy.
Through the chair, the intent, is, should council agree that the comments that are included in the analysis, I would upload those to the environmental registry. There is the link to the actual posting that you can click on in the first paragraph under background. And anybody in the province can access that and provide comments. I have talked to at least one applicant who I know was frustrated with the process and advised that they could submit comments. I'll follow up with an email on that. So anybody in the province can do that. But I think, you know, with our experience here and the with implementation, I think it's important for the municipality as a whole to provide comments. They did state in the posting that they are looking for comments, and I'm hoping that there's more consultation going forward. I think this is one stage of what they're looking at through the review. I know that they have been sitting down with archaeologists and First Nations, so hopefully there'll be more improvements to come. But I think it is important to understand that archaeology is not just driven by First Nations, it's in provincial policy, and it's not just First Nation sites that are found. Sometimes there are you know, settler sites that have also been found. So it's more so of cultural heritage as a whole that is being looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Booth.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you, Tracy, for this report, and I agree with your comments. And finally, you know, this presents a common sense approach. I know this has come to council a lot of times, especially the scoped approach to the assessments. When somebody's putting on, you know, a garage or something like that, and then they're forced to dig 200 holes all over their property, which just seems to be ridiculous. So I'm really happy that something like this is coming forward, and thank you for your comments.
Councilor O'Neill.
Picking up, I suppose we've had an ongoing, this is a new development in many ways that's happening now, and figuring out the kinks in the process. And this is contribution to figuring out the kinks in the process. So I think that's a good step. I think this is a reality. We have built on top of things without thought. And now they're saying you need to proceed from here forward with thought and to balance those things. I think we're making the process better over time, but it's a good process and we need to respect it.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. One question, you know, I didn't compare the guidelines that you were proposing or versus the ones that people were using on their own. And by their own, when you went to make an application, you could fill out those questions. Is this any different than what was there before?
Through the chair, the guidelines that they're proposing to update is what the archaeologists use. They hadn't proposed changes to the checklist that we use. I did provide comments indicating that that checklist should be updated, specifically for question 8, where it says, has the entire property been subject to recent, extensive, and intensive disturbance? I think there needs to be a better description of what that means. They do have details as to what that means, but I have heard people with different interpretations. Like it says, disturbance is anything after 1960. So I've heard somebody say, well, if it was a parking lot constructed in 1975, well, that you know, you have to think about what kind of parking lot is. Is it a surface parking lot where somebody just paved the ground? That would be considered extensive disturbance. It would be maybe a parking garage. So, you know, we've had residents wanting to put an addition on an older home, and it says it speaks to building footprints. Well, how far does that go? Not all construction involved extensive grading. So how do we interpret this checklist? When I've talked to MCM staff, their interpretation is quite extreme compared to somebody who might look at the word landscaping and think a flower bed is enough. Well, I think it means a lot more than just scraping the topsoil. I think we need more help communicating this to the public. There needs to be more plain language resources available for people to really understand the checklist and even the legislation. Like if somebody is constructing something and they simply need a permit, do they realize that if they dig something up, the Heritage Act regulations automatically trigger the requirement for an archaeological assessment if they know they have dug something up? And then what is an artifact is another question. So I think there needs to be a lot more education to help us implement the policies that the province is asking us to implement on their behalf.
And would your book that you mentioned previously this morning, did that help in this case?
Oh, through the chair, the handbook, that I was referring to site plan process. Try and explain the archaeological process as someone who's not an archaeologist is a little more complicated. I think it would be helpful if the trained staff at the province maybe put some plain language documents together, put them on their website. There's limited resources there. You know, I've heard that there might be funding available, but have not been able to find that funding. So I am going to have another conversation with staff. So then if there is funding, then I can pass that on to applicants. If there's not funding, I believe they should consider it. Thank you.
Any other, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, to you, Mayor. So, you know, Bill 5 through the province already has land that's exempt to archaeological assessments. And I think this is part of the fallout of it all. You know, the province wants to get houses built, and this is a stumbling block for the amount of time that have to be done, the amount of time that they find stuff. So Tracy, when if we pass this today for information, this will tie into what the province ends up with. So will we have our own policy on how the assessments are handled in the township, which will link us to the province's regulation.
Through the chair. So they're asking for comments that will inform potential changes. So we won't know what happens until they come down with any changes. So the way I implement the requirement is through provincial policy and legislation. So until they make changes, I would not be changing the way I apply the approach, because I think my read of the policies are fairly clear in that if you meet the checklist requirements, and there's a Planning Act application required, you should be doing the assessment. It's clear to me that's how the approach is done. There have been municipalities that have done archaeological management plans to even drill down, you know, mapping and where things are required. And they have some instances looked at changing site plan to require site plan approval, so that if there's just a building permit, typically that you can get that assessment, because I believe the cost of dealing with an archaeological site after you've uncovered it is greater than if you actually do the stage 1 and 2 assessment first. I've seen bills come in that are $3,000 to $5,000, where people who have uncovered something and now have to mitigate it with no space for a buffer are into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So as much as it is a cost, it can be a greater cost if it's uncovered after the fact. So I also put in a point about funding for archaeological management plans, because to retain a consultant to do that is a great cost. Thank you.
When I think of it, you're dealing, mostly with Ministry of Multiculturalism and Heritage and that sort of stuff. But you want to send this to the Environmental Registration of Ontario. Is that a different ministry or?
Through the chair, it's like an electronic portal where whenever the province releases proposals for comment, that's the system that they use. So it would be under that ministry that's responsible for archaeological guidelines and like the Heritage Act. They deal with a lot of the implementation for that. So it's like a repository online where, yeah, people can put their comments. It's not a specific ministry.
Just to follow up, I wonder if this link for comment can be put on our website. We've had multiple residents that have had the frustration of this process. It would be nice, because I mean, this has just kind of come out. I called the NPP's office about this and they didn't even know about it. So that must be how new it is. So it would give residents a chance and applicants and past applicants a chance to comment their question. So I wonder if we could maybe post that link and kind of get it out to the resident.
That's Madam Chair. Can you do that?
Tracy, is it under the Environmental Registry of Ontario? Is that the link?
That's correct.
Okay. So we can post that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other further comments? I'll read the resolution. The council received report PLN 2026-10, the Heritage Framework Transformation Proposals related to Ontario's archaeological program, including target changes to the standards and guidelines with consultant archaeological lists for information, and that the senior planner submit their comments contained in the planning analysis and conclusion section of report PLN 2026-10 to the Environmental Registry of Ontario. Move it in a second. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any further comments? All in favor? That's carried. We're gonna move on to 11.3, Grafton Creek Side Golf Course, removal of the holding system. You have the floor.
Through the chair. So the report proposing removal of the holding symbol from the zoning for the Grafton Creek Side Golf Course. They have entered into a site plan agreement, and we have received the confirmation from the ministry that the assessment has been entered into the public register. There were some attachments that are identified in attachment 1 and 2. That's for another matter that we will be reporting on a future meeting. So sorry for the confusion on that. If there's any questions,
No effect on the hold system.
no.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Mayor, more of a comment, an update. So they're, for everybody's information, they're hoping to be having barbecues and, sitting in the sun on their new deck by the end of September.
Good.
That's good in the new clubhouse.
That's good to hear, Mike.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go golfing here.
Richard Township.
Yeah. The bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration to approve an amendment to the bylaw 192019 to remove the holding symbol in relation to application Z012024. Mover and seconder. Moved by, Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Further comments? All in favor? That's carried. We'll move on to bylaws. And our first bylaw is 2026-16, site control, plan control bylaw. That bylaw 2026-16, as amended, being a bylaw to designate the township of Allen Alderman as a site plan control area to define classes of development that may be undertaken without the approval of certain plans and drawings, be given a first, second, and third reading, and finally pass this 24th day of March 2026. Mover and second. Moved by Councilor Booth. Second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any discussions? Go ahead.
Does that need to be as amended or not?
I said that.
Oh, I'm sorry for missing that.
That's okay. Any other comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Our next one is bylaw number 2026. Zoning bylaw amendment Z05-2025. The bylaw 2026-17 being a bylaw to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw for 1225 Shelter Valley Drive. Draft and be given a first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 24th day of March 2026. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Councilor Booth. I do have one comment. Should that be Shelter Valley Drive or Shelter Valley Road?
Through the chair, it should be road. Sorry, apologies.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion's carried. Bylaw 2026-18, the execute development agreement for 158 Noonan Road, AH 152025. The bylaw number 2026-18 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a development agreement for 154 Newton Road, be given a first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 24th day of March 2026. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Councilor O'Neill. Any thoughts or considerations? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Bylaw number 2026-19 to execute an agreement 12708 County Road 24, bylaw 2026-19, executed development agreement 127008 County Road 24, HOG AH 242024. The bylaw 2026-19 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a development agreement for 12708 County Road 24, be given a first, second, and third reading, and finally pass this 24th day of March 2026. Moved by Councilor O'Neill, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Bylaw 2026-20, execute development agreement for 751 Wicklow Road. Bylaw 2026-20, execute development agreement 7051 Wicklow, and it's for Finley AH 182024. The bylaw number 2026 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a development agreement for 751 Wicklow Road, to be given a first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 24th day of March 2026. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Next one is bylaw 2026-21, execute development agreement for 1026 Merrill Road, number 31. And this is for the Thompson AH092025. The bylaw 2026 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a development agreement for 1026 Merrill Road, number 31. Be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 24th day of March 2026. Moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw 2026-22 to appoint a treasurer. The bylaw 2026 being a bylaw to appoint a municipal treasurer, be given a first, second, and third reading and pass this 24th day of March 2026. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Do we need to, repeal the interim treasurer bylaw as well?
Check. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the bylaw before you today, 2026-22, does take into account that the interim bylaw is hereby repealed as of the effective date, which is March 30th. So the interim bylaw will be repealed as of March 30th. And this bylaw does not take effect until the new treasurer start date, which is the 30th. So it's just approving it, so we can hit the ground running on Thursday.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, number, yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's take a 10-minute break. Give, appointment person a chance, opportunity to leave. You guys need to, or I need a break, right? That's probably good. Monty? No, you're in the motion. Just be back. And For everyone's information, council has returned from a short break and we're back to work. We're going on to administrative reports. And the first one is 14-1, use of corporate resources for election purposes policy 2026. And this was deferred from the March 17th, 2026 committee of the whole meeting. Anybody want to comment on this? I think your council, you look like you're ready.
Yes.
So we need to get a motion, mover and seconder and put it on the floor. So you're moving, put it on the floor, Councilor Rules.
Yeah, to receive this information.
I'll read the recommendation. It is recommended that the council, pardon me. It is recommended, is that better? That the council receive report CLK 2026-03, use of corporate resources for election purposes, policy for information, and that the use of corporate resources for election purposes, policy be approved. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Comments? Go ahead, Councilor Ainsworth.
That's for you, Mayor. So, I mean, this, everything I look at, you know, with our policies and stuff comes up, and I'm gonna read here through our code of conduct and rule number 6 on election campaign. Number 2, it says no member shall use of facilities, equipment, supplies, services, staff, or other resources of the township, including councilors' newsletters, individual websites, linked through the township websites and social media accounts used for the ward communications, or any election campaign and campaign-related activities on all such sites shall not use the township of Mount Collins logo or their properties. So, I mean, it's in our own policies that this hasn't, so whatever's been going on in the past, has been going on, and I get it. But, you know, the rules are the rules and the laws are the laws. So we're breaking them by doing it.
Are you getting, where are you taking that from?
Out of our code of conduct for our procedural bylaw.
Procedural bylaw?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so is that bylaw number 48-219?
Yes.
Okay. Which one were you looking at?
It is under the election campaign rule number 6.
Number 6. Okay,
It also referenced the Municipal Elections Act of 1996. And members are accountable and members are counselors.
okay.
Thank you.
Another comment? As if you're going to agree?
Pardon?
Are you going to agree with? Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. Go ahead, comment. It does say if you get difference of opinions, you should let them, the other person debate. If you have a difference of opinion, but we haven't done that in the past, so we're not gonna start anything.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. It's pretty plain. It's, bylaw 48-2019, Schedule A, under rule number 6, and we are members. When I go into the index to see what a member is. And so as it stands, we are now not eligible to attend an all candidates night. And, yeah, so I mean, it's pretty clear there'd be a violation of the code. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Booth.
Through you, your worship. I'm glad that we deferred this so that we could research a little bit more, and I'm gonna make my comments here. I would like to address the section of the proposed use of corporate resources for election purposes policy that prohibits all campaigning and campaign materials in any municipal facility on municipal lands or municipally operated events. I want to state respectfully but firmly that I do not agree with staff's interpretations nor this complete prohibition with regards to all candidate debates and meet and greets. Historically, our township has taken a more balanced, democratic, and community-focused approach. In previous municipal elections, we have permitted all candidate debates in township facilities. During the last election cycle, we allowed a meet and greet event at the Centerton Community Center, and both the meet and greet and the all candidates debate held in township facilities were very well attended by residents. Additionally, during last year's federal election, an all candidates debate was held at the Roseneath Community Center. All candidates were invited and the event was extremely well attended. These events were equitable, responsibly managed, and provided residents with accessible opportunities to hear directly from those seeking office. This approach has served our community extremely well. It promotes fairness, encourages informed participation, and ensures that all candidates have equal access to residents. Importantly, this balanced approach is not unique to us. Other municipalities, including some of the largest in Ontario, expressly allow the use of municipal facilities for neutral, nonpartisan election events. For example, the City of Toronto's use of city resources during an election period policy clearly states all candidates' meetings may be held at city facilities for a nominal fee or other considerations, provided that all candidates for an office are invited to attend. A complete prohibition as proposed here represents a significant and unnecessary departure from our past practice and from common municipal standards across Ontario. Such a blanket ban would restrict community groups, limit public access to candidates, and ultimately weaken democratic participation. I believe we can protect the neutrality of municipal resources without shutting the door on community-driven, nonpartisan election events. Clear, consistent rules applied equally to everyone are more than sufficient. For these reasons, I would respectfully ask Council to amend this section of the policy and permit the continued use of township facilities for all candidate debates or community meet and greets. These events have historically been successful, well attended, and beneficial to residents, and they uphold, not undermine, our commitment to fair and accessible local democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Go ahead, Councilor Ainsworth.
Councilor Booth, I agree with you 100%. We need to follow the law. I don't, what the rules and regulations are. So I do agree with it, and I won't even argue with you about it. But I'm just saying, like, if our policies are saying what the policies are, the municipal act says what it is, plus the election act. I would like to know how many municipalities in our county are doing this and or what the issues are from them. And I also, if we have incumbents running for re-election and we have new people running for election, is there a difference there versus, like, did they rent a hall but we're not allowed to go because we're incumbents? So those kind of things. So, but I would like to know what the rest of the township, the county is doing if that's possible.
Thank you. Councilor Booth.
Through your worship, just to answer that, Mike, I have contacted AMO and spoken with somebody at the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. We set the rules when it comes to the use of facilities. There is nothing in the Municipal Act that prevents meet and greets and debates. As long as, and their big thing was, everybody is treated the same and fairly. They all have to be invited. You cannot say you're invited and you're not, or whatever it is. There's nothing in the act that prevents that. All the other things in there that the clerk has suggested, I am fine. I'm fine with all of those things. We can't be using the photocopier and things like that. But when it comes to a meet and greet or a debate, And as long as I agree with the clerk's comment last week, as long as it's not run by the township, and that was my mistake, so it has to be a third-party person or business association could rent this hall. And as long as everybody is invited and treated fairly, that is fully, it's not against any of them, the act at all.
Go ahead, Ms. Cobb.
I agree with what you've just said, Councillor Booth, and I agree with what you started us off, but when you were reading that section, that applied to individuals. And as you said, everything we said that applies to individuals, and as sitting councillors, we have to be even extra careful that we don't unintentionally take advantage of the fact that we are in this position. So I also want to remind us as council and the AMO initiative that we have as a council supported around the healthy democracy, where we are trying to encourage greater participation in local democracy, and we are trying to promote the greater civic engagement. So those are things we made a commitment to already as a council. I see this as an opportunity to achieve both of those goals, which are absolutely needed as we are watching the level of participation in municipal elections decrease election over election. So there was good reason that AMO has done this. There's good reason that our council has already done this. And I appreciate the research that you've done, Councillor Booth, and the information you've brought to us. I definitely feel that so long as this is run by a third party and that it is completely inclusive of all candidates, these are appropriate events to be held in a municipal building.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Lobo, when I look at rule number 6, and this is bylaw 48-2019, so it was in effect for the last council and the last election. I'm wondering about rule number, I don't put my, sorry. I'll start over again. So my question, Mayor Lobo, is this bylaw that's been in place, bylaw 48-2019, Schedule A. And then I'm gonna go to rule number 6. No member shall use the facilities, equipment, supplies, services, staff, or other resources of the township, including council newsletters, individual websites linked through the township website, and social media accounts used for ward communication. That's pretty clear. So then it goes on, no member shall use the facilities, equipment, supplies, services, staff, or other resources of the township for any election campaign or campaign-related activities, and all such sites shall not use the township of Alnwick, Halden, and Lobo. So that part is right. So I'm just wondering if I could ask Madam Clerk, would that put us in a code of conduct violation? Because it says no member and we are members. So I just need clarification on that number 2. If it's appropriate for us to attend and how that all fits in. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the bylaw reads as it does, in that no member shall use the facilities for any campaign, election campaign or campaign related activities. So that would be up to each member has the ability to make their own decision as to how they want to read that, but it's pretty clear that no member shall. So you can defer to the Integrity Commissioner for further clarification, but the bylaw, again, that was written in 2019 is very clear as to what the rules are for this.
Mayor Goffin.
my way of reading that, and I take your point that we could do more research and look at it elsewhere, but, a member can't do it, I can't do it, that would be absolutely not allowed. However, a third party, in the business association, which has traditionally done it, but any third party that chooses to want to run an all candidates event, they can do it, is what I want to say. Yeah, I think we have full agreement that no one will do it as an individual. But can a third party use our facility to do something? And I do not believe that anything precludes a third party. And in fact, I will reiterate that I think to support healthy democracy, this is a way that we can definitely support healthy democracy by allowing all candidates events in our space.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Lobo, and I will, if I may direct a question back to her clerk. I had all my papers and fingers together, and, how does this fit with the third party, the way it is written?
You have a
And I
comment?
can't put my finger on it.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the way the bylaw is written, rule number 6, if you look at rule number 6, number 4, in a municipal election year commencing on the election cutoff date until the date of the election, no candidate, including members, may directly or indirectly book any municipal facility for any purpose that might be perceived as an election campaign purpose. The purpose of a debate or of the candidate's town hall section is an election campaign through and through. You are there to promote what you stand for, what you want to bring forward. That is the definition of campaign. To host those events, whether it's held by a third party or whether it's booked by an individual, clearly it cannot be booked by any candidate, including a member. Anything whereby you are on municipal property, as per this bylaw, talking about your election campaign, it's very clear. The policy, the definitions within the policy itself also outline campaign. Those were not changed from the 2022 version. The definitions remain the same. So campaigning does include anything in which you are discussing your election campaign. So the policy does, again, it states may directly or indirectly. No booking shall take place either directly or indirectly for anything perceived as election campaign purpose, which is what a third party candidates debate or all candidates session would be regardless.
And so number 4 will cover that. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I heard the answer, Mayor Lobo, just a follow up to our clerk. Are there other municipalities, following this and not allowing, candidate nights in, municipal buildings in Northumberland County? Have there been other municipalities that have, put this in place? Are you able to answer that?
Madam Clerk, your answer?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, we have been speaking quite a lot with our neighboring clerks on this matter. As you can imagine, it's a hot topic at the moment. But in answer to your question, Councilor Ainsworth's question, Township of Cranley does not permit any municipal campaign related activities, whether it's third party hosted or individual candidates, nor does Brighton, Fort Hope, Trent Hills. Did we get confirmation? We did not get confirmation from Trent Hills. The NMH, our CNO, the CAO and I met with the CAO and I met with the NMH yesterday as well, and we confirmed that the city is involved. Municipal Affairs and Housing, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. They confirm that the city of Belleville has also changed their policies to be more restrictive in eliminating the use of municipal facilities for election purposes. The Township of Asphodel Norwood also does not permit this as well.
Okay, thank you.
I did some investigation and I punched into good old Google asking for some information regarding, the use of, buildings for an all candidates meeting. And what come back was under the Municipal Elections Act, MEA, and the Municipal Act 2001, all candidates meetings can be held in municipal buildings, which include city halls, community centers, parks, provided that all candidates for an office are invited to attend, ensuring fair access. The municipality may charge a nominal fee or other consideration for the use of space. That little portion has come out of the city of Toronto, which is basically what Greg said. Key considerations for municipal buildings. All candidates require to avoid accusation of improper use of municipal resources. All candidates meetings in municipal facilities must be open to every candidate. Equal access. Municipalities must ensure that they are not in favor of one candidate over another when renting out space. Signage. Restrictions may exist regarding the placement of campaign signs and other paraphernalia, I guess, inside or on the grounds of municipal facilities. Staff neutrality. Municipal staff cannot promote or campaign for any candidate. No free contribution. While space can be rented, providing free space might violate municipal election finance rules, which prohibit municipal contributions to campaigns. Limitations. All candidates meetings are not mandatory, and the municipal clerk is not responsible for organizing them. They are usually arranged by community groups, media outlets, or the candidates themselves. And that's basically the summary. Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship, the question was asked about Northumberland. I can answer that the town of Coburg is actually even more liberal. They allow candidates may pay the full market rental and rates for use of town facilities, with the exception of Victoria Hall, in accordance with town rental policies and procedures, and the appropriate rental rate shall be paid from the candidate's campaign account. Candidates shall set up and remove all campaign materials, including but not limited to signs, this and that and everything. So they even allow candidates to rent the facilities to do it. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking is that if the business association or a member of the public wants to rent this hall or any of our facilities and have all candidates debate, for example, the business association, I think, has done that every election that I've been here as a resident or as a member of the public who rented this one, as long as, and that's the proviso, everybody has to be treated fairly and inviting. So each municipality is different. I could go to a bunch of them that don't allow anything, like Brighton, or you have Oakville's another one that, yes, they allow all candidates debates and things. And I think especially in a small community like us, it was discussed, you brought up a good point, Mary Catherine, last week, is we don't have a lot of facilities in town that could hold 50 to 100 people. So if it's not one of our facilities, it's probably the Legion is what was mentioned. And I don't think it's fair that we have people up in the Rosemead or North area that are gonna have to drive all the way down to the Legion to do something. And, you know, we're supposed to be making this accessible. We want more people to vote for the municipal election. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the comment? Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
I believe it was what you were reading. You referenced that media may in fact want to hold these. I do note that the media did pick up and run a story on this when it happened. There was an article in today's Northumberland. So this is something that the public has a vested interest in. But I will reiterate, I think the right move is to look at the greater goal. What are we trying to achieve? We want people engaged in our election. We want people involved. And this is a way that we can do it with proper limitations in place.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
To you, Mayor Lobo, and I'm just wondering, everyone's input on our bylaw as it stands right now. Because we would not, we would all be in violation of the code if we, attended. Number two starts it off and number four finishes it. So that kind of, we have these bylaws in place. So I'm not sure, I just like to ask everyone's input on their thoughts on going against this code. Thank
Are
you.
you asking for a straw vote?
No, I would just like to find out what their,
Johnny?
what,
You go for it. Yeah, well, just a minute, I've got somebody asking a question.
I was gonna respond to the deputy mayor if. I believe in my mind anyway, once it is rented by a third party, that is now the third party that is, the owner, so to speak, of the building for the duration of that time.
shall I read number four again?
No, CAO has asked for a break for a moment.
Okay, thank
How
you.
long you gonna be? Just think about it. No. Oh, okay. We gotta take a 2-minute recess.
Thank you.
recess, I had to find, meeting moving, rather than get tied up and tied up. And I also was reminded that we have to respect members of the public as well as members, our own members, and make sure that we are all following the code of conduct for each particular person or member. So we've added a mover and a seconder. That this we received from information. So I'm going to read the motion again. It is recommended that council receive report CLK 2023-20603, use of corporate resources for election purposes, policy for information, and that the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy be approved. Go ahead,
Thank
Councilor.
you, Mr. Worship. I would like to make an amendment to this policy, please. That would allow business associations or members of the public, a third party, that are allowed to rent the town facilities at whatever the current rental rate is. There's no deals or anything. They're allowed to do that as long as all candidates are invited.
Okay. I'm going to advise in order to do that, there's not a problem with doing that, but we have to amend the code of conduct. Or can you give us an example of that? Can you look at it?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, a policy cannot amend a bylaw, only a bylaw can amend the bylaw. So the bylaw supersedes policy, which is why the policy is written to be in compliance with the code of conduct bylaw as it's written in 2019. So in order to make any sort of permissions for that, you would have to strip the code of conduct to permit that and change the outcome.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Booth.
Through your worship, I respectfully disagree with that. And if we have to, maybe we should contact the integrity commissioner and see exactly what the bylaw, from what I've talked to about different people, that section in there about the bylaw talks about, they are indicating that me or Mike or any council member here can't go and rent the arena, cannot go and rent this room and have a big candidates thing, whatever like that. It's not meant as is a third party rents it and invites you. And there's numerous examples all over. So I don't believe we have to dig into the bylaws to say that if we make it and change this, the use of corporate resources to say that if it's a third party, as long as everybody's treated fairly and invited, that's it.
Thank you. Catherine?
I will second Councillor Booth's amendment motion. And perhaps we could include in that amendment motion that we will consult the integrity commissioner to see if any changes to the procedural bylaw are needed to add this to the policy.
I would agree to that change, yes.
I guess I'm not sure what the job of the integrity commissioner is. I'm not sure that they set policy. That's my thought. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, to you, Mayor. I think that's what the councilor Booth is suggesting is probably the safest way. And I mean, even the only stuff that I've checked out, it's a very common across Ontario. It's usually encouraged and it's legally fine when it's done fairly. So, you know, if we can do something to make that happen, if we can, you know, make an amendment to our bylaws today or later on, that would be great. I know you have to have this in by the 1st of May, right?
Deputy Mayor.
So if the Chambers of Commerce did an all candidates night, I think that's what Councilor Booth is talking about.
You, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So I guess through your Mayor Lobo, the only caveat that I can see as a problem is the integrity commissioner, would look at it and give us their opinion. And then it would come back, but if it went against, the policy and the act, where does it leave us? We're still in a catch-22 with that, so I would, not want to reach out to the integrity commissioner. I'm just wondering if it was to be rewritten, what is the timeline, and would that interfere with the May 1st date? Because this would have to be changed. This is our bylaw. And so I'm just wondering about, how long that would take.
Mr. Mayor, we're also running into an issue here. The motion on the floor initially was that the use of corporate resources policy be approved. We're now talking about amending the bylaw, so we have now deviated from what the motion on the floor was. It's not a small amendment because we're not amending policy, because again, the policy does not amend the bylaw. So you would need to have as a matter of procedure, you would need to have the motion to approve the policy fail. Before you could table anything that would allow you to then move forward with a bylaw amendment, a direction to staff to amend the bylaw. A code of conduct bylaw amendment can be brought forward to the April 10th council meeting. At that point, you would amend the bylaw to make it admissible. Again, as a matter of procedure, a bylaw to amend is the only way to amend an existing bylaw. At that point, the policy can be amended to reflect the changes within the new amended bylaw. So you are on a time crunch. It is putting additional work back onto the clerk's department. I would like to point out again that the Municipal Elections Act is very clear that it gives broad authority to the clerk. It's not a situation of one employee being demanding or controlling. It is the legislative responsibility of the clerk under the Municipal Elections Act. The act is designed in a way for the clerk to have the authority to implement and run an election. It is not council's election to run, it is in fact the clerk's. That's standard and supported through the province. It's supported by case law. And the reason being for that is to ensure that there is a neutral party in charge of the election. It's to avoid government interference in doing what is best for the municipality in and of itself. The perception and the reputational risk of holding these types of events in small rural municipalities. So I respect that the city of Toronto permits it, city of Oakville. Again, we're quoting large cities. I can also quote, just as many large cities that don't permit it. In the conversations with municipal affairs and housing yesterday, they did reiterate that these are localized decisions. So again, while I respect council's want for third parties, it is the recommendation of staff that these types of events not be permitted in township facilities because we cannot guarantee neutrality. I know for a fact, through learned and lived experience, that even though these third-party candidate events can take place, and the caveat is there that they be open and available to all. I know, again, through lived experience, that is not always the case, and it does not always happen. We also run into the issue of mixed use in some of our larger facilities. So we do have a post office, we do have libraries as well. So we run the risk of greater exposure there. So it's council's prerogative as to how you would like to proceed. It is the recommendation of staff. I stand fast with that under my jurisdiction and board of this work under the Municipal Elections Act, that this is what would be deemed the best way forward. We are seeing an unprecedented level of within the community. We are already seeing campaigning and attacks on members of council and already seeing that going on. So by eliminating those types of activities here in our facilities, we avoid the reputational risk as well as the perception that we are in fact endorsing any candidates that may may or may not attend these events. So even though it might be open to all, if one candidate is unavailable to attend, we could be seen as giving an unfair advantage in our facility to the members that do attend. So it is about protecting the municipality, limiting our corporate risk. It's in no way, shape, or form a assault on democracy. In fact, it's doing everything to ensure that we strengthen and support democracy by making sure we are neutral as a corporation, as a municipality, as a township. So again, going back to the conversation on the floor here, you have an amendment that would have been to amend a policy, however, it would not be in order, because again, a policy cannot amend or supersede a bylaw. You would have to make the amendment to the bylaw itself.
Thank you. Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship, that's why I agree with what Mary Catherine said as part of the amendment is we contact the integrity commissioner and we get their opinion quickly on what staff's interpretation of that policy is. And if the integrity commissioner says, yes, there is a conflict, then fine, let's bring it back and I will make a motion to change the policy during an election year that staff is allowed to attend a meet and greet or whatever if it's from a third. Council is allowed to attend a meet and greet or that during an election year if they're invited by a third party, if it's just something quickly like that. I don't want to have to dig into all of this if we don't have to. If the integrity commissioner says the intent of this is that you personally, Mr. Booth, cannot as a council rent the hall and do, that's fine. And that's what I believe the intention is, not if it's a third party person. And if we have to, then fine. We still have lots of time that we can come back in April and make a motion to change the policy. I'm just trying to make it easier that I want to change this for resources.
Bylaw.
Well, we would have to change the bylaw. But right now, my thing is to just say that this election purposes policy would allow third-party people or business associations to rent the hall and invite everybody.
Okay.
And the clerk is right. There are very many examples of some townships don't allow anything and some are as liberal like as Coburg where they even allow you to rent the halls and that as long as there's no favoritism and you pay the whatever, you can do whatever you want. So we as council set that about the use of facilities. I agree with the clerk when it comes to I can't use the town logo, I can't use the photocopier, all that. That is all 100% agreed. None of that is allowed. We're talking specifically about a third-party rental. Thank you.
Go ahead. There's a motion forward. Okay, I've been advised by the clerk that we cannot, your policy to amend is not permissible. Because of what it's asking us to do, and what is that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion to amend right now, to amend the policy to permit a third-party town hall would be out of order, because the policy would then be out of compliance with what the bylaw is. If the intent is to change the code of conduct bylaw, then you would need to go back to a main motion, which would be to have the current one right now. The main motion would be to receive for information and approve the use of corporate resources policy. You would have to have that policy fail and then go through and make staff put through the motion to amend the bylaw, at which point we would then be able to amend the policy, write a policy in compliance with the bylaw. But to make an amendment to the policy as written right now to permit this would put you under compliance with your own bylaws.
Are you willing to amend?
I disagree with that, but if it means the easiest way is let's turn this down and then we go the way of fine, bring it back with an amendment and we will change the, what is it? I keep forgetting what you talked about. The bylaw that says during an election year that council members are allowed to attend the third party thing, if that makes it easier. I think it's easier for all future councils too.
Thank you. So that's your motion?
Well, I agree with the clerk, let's vote it down. That would be my suggestion, vote it all down, and then we'll make a new, motion to say that, we'll go the other way.
Deputy Mayor? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Through Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Booth's comments that you agree with the clerk that, to vote it down, at no point did I make the recommendation that that the policy be voted down. That was stating the steps and procedure as to how it would happen in order for.
Yeah, sorry if it came across that way, just your thoughts about what would be the easiest way. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
It's kind of, well, when I was listening to, our clerk speak, and explain this again to us, it became very clear to me that, we are in a conflict to be even discussing this. Because we could very well be throwing our hat in the ring and, voting on policy, voting to change a policy that we would be in conflict of, because we're gonna be part of it using that. So, that's become very clear to me why this is, not appropriate. Thank you.
Mike?
Through you, Mayor. I would, I'm gonna make a motion to vote this down.
Oh, we got one. Vote down.
Vote down this report.
Vote down the original motion. Did I vote? Go ahead, Mike.
I make a motion that we turn this report.
Well, there's a motion on the floor which the mayor has to either
Well,
not accept it or not, but, like I said, if we want to make it the easy way, we can vote it all down and then we'll go back to the original motion and then vote it.
Which is that motion? That's the original motion.
Well, you have to rule on the amendment.
Okay. So my recollection of the amendment is the one that you're making, which was to turn it down. Or,
No, my amendment was that the use of the corporate resources election purposes policy include that members of council are allowed to attend, or actually to include that business associations or members of the public can rent the facilities for a debate or meet and greet, as long as all candidates are invited.
That was your amendment.
And Mary Catherine was the one that suggested to say that we could have the integrity commissioner in the meantime look at that to say if that amendment is fine and does not conflict with the policy, we're fine. If it conflicts with the policy, then we would have to come back in April and change the policy to say during an election year, members of council are allowed to attend this.
go ahead, Mike.
I would agree with that, but my only caution is that the average individual trying to reach out to all the candidates might fail. So I wonder if we could limit it to like the Chamber of Commerce.
Go ahead, Councilor Booth.
We never had an issue with it, Mike, here when we had it here. We can, we go by the official list when nominations are ended. And we didn't have any issue with, we had probably 7 or 8 people running for council, 2 people running for deputy mayor, 3, I believe, for mayor. And they don't have to attend if they don't want to. The federal election up at Roseneath, there was 4 or 5 invited. The NDP candidate did not attend because they had an exam. Right, so as long as they're invited, and I think it would be no issue at all making sure that you can invite 7 or 8 or 10 people. That's one of the provisos that AMO talks about in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs is everybody has to be invited, whether you choose to come or not, or you can't make the dates. What I was hoping is that once we know the candidates, that we give them plenty of time to say, Mike, if you're running for whatever, we give you a month or two's notice to say on Saturday, September, whatever, this is the date.
That's how I would think too. There should be maybe a policy for them as well.
Well, that's tough.
Maybe
If you're renting it, they have to be neutral and they have to invite everybody.
It's just that.
Um, the original amendment to amend the policy includes business associations and individuals can rent facilities as long as all candidates are invited. And I did say before, and I'm saying again, that is out of order. So we have to go back to the original motion. And the original motion stated that the council or the corporation of the town of Colvin act as follows. That receiving report CLK 2026-203, use of corporate resources for election purposes policy for information, and that the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy be approved. And that was moved by moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. So I'm calling that vote. All in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I'm requesting a recorded vote, please.
Go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, request for a recorded vote by Councillor Booth. When I go through, I will call your name alphabetically, starting with the requester. When I say your name, please vote yea or nay on the following motion. That the Council of the Township of Walnut Colvin acts as follows. Council receives report CLK 2026-03, use of corporate resources for election purposes policy for information. And that the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy be approved. Councillor Booth.
No.
Councillor Ainsworth.
No,
Councillor O'Neill.
No.
Deputy Mayor Stover.
Yeah. Yes.
Mayor Lobo.
No.
Motion is defeated.
Mayor. Councillor Booth.
To Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we have staff look at two things. One, the use of the corporate resources for election purposes policy, to add in there that business associations or members of the public be allowed to, as a third-party rental, be allowed to rent facilities as long as all candidates are invited. And the second part was that we also bring back the bylaw that conflicts with this so that we can change that bylaw to say that during an election time, sitting members of council are allowed to attend and are not in a conflict of interest if they're invited by a third party to attend a debate or a meet and greet.
Thank you. Seconder. Second by Councillor O'Neill. Questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. To Councillor Booth, you said corporate. I'm wondering if you would say election.
But I just used what's on the report title now. You can change it any way you want. It says
Well, I
use of
don't want to change it, it's just the election campaign. And that's just dealing specifically with the, code of conduct. And that's, under the election campaign. Doesn't matter if you're not wanting to change it, but I just heard that. I didn't know if you wanted to, say election instead of corporate. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? I guess my question would be, why would we not just, let the staff update the bylaw 48-219 to what, works best? Rather than be specific on what we put in and what we don't put in.
Well, just to give direction to staff is we want to make sure that our policy doesn't conflict with the election corporate resources. So everything else in that document is fine with me, just about that if there seems to be a glitch that in our code of conduct, it says we are not allowed to participate in those things, that during an election year, if invited by a third party to attend a meet and greet or a debate, that a sitting member of council be allowed to attend. So whatever is the easiest way for staff to do that, and it's been suggested that we change this election purposes policy and we change the code of conduct at the same time and do it all in one, so that we can have it all done in April, and then we can hand it all in as a complete package.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill?
I think the goal of what I'm hearing is to make sure these things align.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilor, Elizabeth?
I just caution if the wording's strong enough for the individuals. It's only my caution, was that if we can have some different wording for the average person, just to rent this place for candidates, you know, what are they gonna use to reach out to everybody? Are they educating themselves before they do it? Are they being biased for somebody as they set something up? So we need to have some rules on that kind of stuff.
Any suggestions?
Well, that's what I'm suggesting, just leave it to the Chamber of Commerce. To me, if they would have the proper, office to look after the invitation process.
Well, I think our policy is going to state if you have to be, equal and fair to all members that are, all candidates.
Yeah, I know, but the average person that's just out there doing something like that, it'd be pretty easy to be biased.
Very confident.
I have great faith that the people who care enough to do that will care enough to do it properly. I would hate to see a limitation to one organization, because there's several organizations that choose to host all candidates' nights on any number of issues. Whether it's environmental or housing or any of those things. If someone cares enough to do it and we ask them to ensure that it is done properly, I have faith that they will do it properly. I have huge respect for anyone who wants to get involved and help get more people to learn more about the candidates and the issues. I totally respect that.
Thank you. Councilor Ainsworth?
I guess my follow-up with that would be that that's wishful thinking. Because there are some people that would take advantage of it. So we need to tighten the policy up to make sure that doesn't happen,
Thank you.
if we're gonna do it.
Councilor Booth?
I understand what you're saying, Mike, but in all municipalities that allow it, they just put in there that it has to be fair and all candidates are invited. So my hope is that if there is a third party group that rents it, that once the nominations have closed, that they make sure that everybody's invited. And I'm sure it will be out on social media and everything else. And as Mary Catherine said, all of them are I don't see it being a big issue that 10 or 15 people are invited to attend. So I don't think we need to go as much as enforcement of, we're gonna change the policy. Everywhere that it's written, it just says they have to be treated fairly and they have to be invited. Even the Municipal Act, and that doesn't get into, you know, we're gonna investigate this and that. So like you said, Mary Catherine, I believe it could be a housing group that wants to do it or somebody else. So I don't think there'll be an issue with inviting everybody. We're not talking about 100 candidates, right? That they will be invited. Well, hopefully it's not 100 candidates, but
They're all invited, as long as they're all invited and are treated equally and fairly, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
And if a person's not gonna be like that, then you shouldn't be running for council. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lobo. Mayor Lobo, I'd like to, pose a question to Madam Clerk. Seeing that this has gone down, and I do hear the motion, how quickly of a turnaround could this be?
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor to Deputy Mayor, time is of the essence. This is required under the Act to be approved by May 1st. So it will be coming forward to the first council meeting in April for council consideration.
Thank you.
I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor? Carry 100%. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to correspondence communications, and we have correspondence from Sandy Donaldson regarding Vanilla Hall rental rates. And the resolution reads that council support the request from Sandy Dawson for a reduction in fees for Vanilla Hall, and that was recommended at the committee of the whole meeting on March 17th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councillor Booth. Anybody go ahead, Councillor Deputy Mayor?
Due to a glitch with, or not a glitch with Sandy, she hopes to be in place next week. And she will put everything in order to start next week. And thanks everyone for their consideration. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. The next thing, I'm just gonna give you a brief summary of the also high-speed trains. The initial thought it was going to go from Quebec City to Montreal to Peterborough to Toronto. There's a second quarter that's being proposed now, and that would run from, well, forget about Quebec City and Montreal, but from Ottawa and take a route down towards Kingston, and then come back between, or not between, but it could include Trent Hills, meaning Campbellford and Hastings, and the corridor is about 20 kilometers wide, so it could also affect AH. There's been a pushback by members of the mayors from those different things, and basically they're saying we don't like it because of, I'm just letting you know, expropriation threatens by Bill C-16, loss of property and devaluation, disruption to development and construction, and destruction of rural landscapes. And by that, they're talking destroy or cherish rural landscapes, agricultural lands, and environmental sensitive natural areas, including World Heritage Rideau Canal and the Frontenac are -1. So the reason I'm bringing it up to you because I have to get back to them by the 30th, I believe it is. Yes, it's the 30th of March. And they want me to sign off saying I agree, which all the other municipalities are doing. They also want me to put the township logo on that letter. And that's being written to Prime Minister Carney. The next one, and I'm not so much involved in this one, but this come through from the Eastern Ontario Board Caucus yesterday. And they're saying the $60 to $90 million to cover fast food is too expensive. And they're questioning why would it run from down through that agricultural land, and they're suggesting that it should be looked at further along the 401, which they currently have to be considered as well. So that's basically, I want to make sure, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's all come up really quick. I know that Trent Hills Mayor had comment in of the paper, not the paper, the radio, as well as Chief, Simpson had to say everything. Thing, basically, so they're saying, you know, give us, and basically they come back and said, why are we making these decisions? You haven't contacted us. And that was from Trent Hills as well as, Chief Simpson and a lot of the municipalities down there as well, Eastern Ontario. So that's what I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that in case members of the public are talking to you. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, so we talked about this at the Lower Trent Conservation Board meeting, last month, it came up. The conservation authorities are not promoting the south route, but they are in favor of the north route. So that would be up along number 7.
Yes.
Pretty much. Keeps it out of the towns and the cities and stuff that's going through, so it's pretty much a straight shot through. They need 16 meters within a 10-kilometer radius for their tracks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's kind of the update from going on there.
Yeah, Councilor O'Neill.
I think this is an interesting example of what happens when politicians decide that they're gonna rush something and get it happening, because I think, there wasn't, the mapping and the plans weren't far enough advanced. And now it's gone to the public because it's meant to be this thing, and it, without answers for the public, this is where we're getting into a lot of difficulty, because I think if, it had been allowed its natural course and not tried to rush it, we might not see as much conflict. So good example of why, governments need to move slowly and steadily.
I think initially, just to carry on for thought there, Catherine, I think the initial response back was last Friday, I believe it was, and they pushed it back because they weren't getting a lot of complaints till April 24th.
Yeah, it does take time to get everybody's feedback.
So I just wanted to make sure everybody in council was aware of some of the other things, and if you'll move in second, my verbal report, and we've done everything. Right.
Thank you. So from, Mr. Mayor, if I'm understanding it correctly, you've got correspondence here from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus regarding the Ottawa High Speed Rail project, as well as correspondence from Rainbow Lakes, requesting, the township support their resolution.
Yes.
So at this point, for you to make the motion, you would have to move the chair and give the chair to Deputy Mayor Stover. But the motion that I have, from what I'm gathering, is that, council received the correspondence from EOWC and Radar Lakes regarding the Alto High Speed Rail project in its current form, and that will be directed to
Record to approve, that we don't support it until more information becomes forth.
Okay. Mayor indicating the township does not support any more information available.
Yep. Right, over there.
Need a little less.
I'm not gonna say that.
Oh, all right.
You can say it. You
Can I stand too?
can do whatever you want.
All right, maybe it's.
So, my motion is that the correspondence from the Ryder Lake Mayor, as well as the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus Chair, be reported verbally, and that council consider not supporting the South Rail, South Route at this time, South Border at this time.
Would you add until more information is
Yeah,
forthcoming?
yeah, I think it should.
Thank you. Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Mr. Mayor, just to confirm if we have this correct. That you received the EOWC correspondence from the correspondence from EOWC and Rideau Lakes regarding the Alto High Speed Rail project in its current form. And that Mayor Lowe will be directed to respond indicating that the township is going to support the proposed. That Mayor Lowe will be directed to respond indicating that the township does not support the proposed southern corridor route until more information is available.
Perfect.
And I will also include in the minutes copies of both pieces of correspondence. I currently have that moved by Mayor Vogel. You can second or discuss further.
We have Councillor Booth will second that. Thank you. Any discussion further? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, we are now at item 16. Confirming bylaw. It is recommended the council of the corporation of the township of Allen Colvin act as follows, that bylaw 2026-23 being a bylaw to adopt the procedures of the municipal planning / regular council meeting held on the 24th day of March 2026, and to authorize its execution to given the first, second, and third reading and final pass this 24th day of March 2026. Mover to seconder. Moved by Councillor Booth, second by Deputy Mayor Stover, all in favor? That's carried. Motion to adjourn is recommended the council of the corporation of township of Allen act as follows, that the municipal planning / regular council meeting held on March 24th, 2026 be adjourned at 12:09 p.m. Mover and seconder, moved by Councilor O'Neill, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe afternoon.
Thank you.